people that aren't up to speed or aware don't realize this is what we do every time. And people buy into it, and you get those people in the administration on TV to justify why the war is feasible. You're going to pay more for gas, but guess what? It's to save American lives. You know, we're going to save American lives in this war. We're going to have peace in that region once we destroy this regime. Propaganda over and over again, where I just shake my head and say, we've heard this before. We've heard this before, and we never like the after effects of it. We're always puzzled during the process of why are we over there? Why are our soldiers being killed? For what cause? What is the mission?
For city managers and other leaders within the city.
Hey, family, welcome to another episode of our co-host special series on the Black Man's Roundtable. Today, we have some great subjects that we're going to share with you. We have Bobby, of course, who's going to talk about some American propaganda. We have Rodney, who's going to talk about the SAVE Act. And myself, I'm going to talk about Afroman and his lawsuit. Gentlemen, how's it going? Rodney, Bobby, how's it going?
Great, man. Good to see you guys.
Great. Everything is going good. Just been busy, but thankful to be here.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Hey, it's better to be busy than just dormant. I tell you that. Right. So yeah, so it's always good to have some stuff going on. But anyway, with that, without further ado, Bobby, we're going to go ahead on and kick this thing off with you and talking about some American propaganda. Take it away, brother. Let's get started.
All right, let's get into it. So, unless you're sleeping under a rock, you know we're currently in a war in Iran that this administration is trying desperately not to use the term war. They want to say incursion. They want to say anything other than war because they know that would require an act by Congress. And it's against the Presidential War Powers Act. So let's get into it. What I wanted to really talk about with this is if you go back and realize how American propaganda works when it comes to war, all right? So we already see it in full play right now with not wanting to use the term, but it just got me thinking when I've listened to this administration speak over the last couple of weeks regarding this whole situation in Iran, and I realized how certain things trigger my memory going back to my days when I served in the Army. So if you look at it right now, let's go back. So I served in from 1990 to 1998. And I can recall, because we were only 2 weeks into basic training when this actually happened. We'd already lost a soldier who actually died, Private John Grove, I remember his name, after basic training. I mean, after we had just finished our run, early morning run. So we already had that going on. And we get called to a formation later on that day, or maybe it was the following day. Get called into formation, and the first sergeant's telling us about Iraq invading Kuwait. And this was my first wake-up call into, I'm in the military, I'm in the Army. We're considered, quote unquote, the world's police. And I remember when he said it, my first thought in my head was Iraq invaded Kuwait. I'm thinking, I'm just a 19-year-old, young kid, 2 years in college, thinking, well, what they got to do with us? And as soon as he kept explaining, hey, we have oil interests there. They're digging in. We want them out. We're going to war. Now, when I left to go to basic training, there was nothing, quote unquote, critical, if you want to use that term, going on in the world where it looked like we were even close to going to war. There was nothing going on that would lead us to believe that. But so be it. All of a sudden, 2 weeks, I'm in the basic training. I'm here how we're being trained to go to war. And so that really just opened my eyes up to, wow, this American propaganda machine when it comes to war is easily triggered.
I combat U.S. propaganda. I'm a 12-time published academic researcher. I have experience with a wide range of methodologies, including analyzing persuasion techniques to long-term data analysis. I cite all my sources for all of the claims I make in my videos in the spreadsheet that's available to the public. US propaganda is not just a theory or a personal belief, it's a well-documented phenomenon that is studied worldwide, including in Germany. US propaganda uses fear, repetition, and framing to discourage critical thinking, maintain the status quo, and prevent the adoption of policies that could help. But living in Germany has shown me that this fear is unfounded. When I compare my life here to my life in the US, I can see how much we've been misled. It's so prevalent because it serves the interests of powerful people. I'm using my over decade of experience in higher education teaching communications courses to explain that US propaganda is everywhere. It shapes how you see healthcare, education, and even other countries. By framing any criticism as unpatriotic, it discourages critical voices that would help us to adopt better policies in the US. By questioning and exposing propaganda, I hope to help people break free from the cycles and question critically the systems that are shaping their beliefs.
So when you think about today, I thought back to then. So they were telling us the whole time during basic training, as they're training us, because my specialty happened to be what they said they wanted over there. They were telling us about how the Iraqi military had over 1 million men. They had a 1 million-man army. We don't have a 1 million-man army in the United States because we're all volunteer. We don't have a 1 million man army in the United States, being all volunteer. They have all these duplicates, as they told us, of Saddam Hussein. He's got these underground tunnels, basically this underground area where he can operate and still survive bombings and attacks. So it was basically made to seem as though there was a lot of invincibility, not that he was incapable of being defeated, but a lot of invincibility around Saddam Hussein. So as we know, we move forward to January of 1991. They started bombing Iraq. This is under President George H.W. Bush. Let me make sure that we're clear on that.
The
Under
daddy.
President, yes,
Yep.
Daddy Bush. So the war starts in early January of 1991. That was the shock and awe, if you recall those statements being
Yep.
given
Yep.
about that campaign. So the war technically only lasted about 2 months. We went in pretty quickly, and what we found out was that 1 million-man army wasn't really a 1 million-man army. On paper, it sounds good, but a lot of those people were forced to fight. A lot of those men were given weapons, forced to fight, and they didn't really want to fire upon us. They wanted to give up because they knew under the Geneva Convention, they were better off as POWs. They tried to fight against us, they were going to die. They knew that. So they knew as a prisoner of war, if we got 3 meals a day, they get 3 meals a day. They know that they can't be used as a human shield. They can't be used to go out and see if there are any minefields out there by sending them to run out there. And, if you blow them up, then you know that, yeah, there are, but you couldn't do that. All of that stuff is against the Geneva Convention, so you could be tried as a war criminal if you were guilty of doing something like that. And again, that goes back into people not understanding about what it means to get given a legal order. You don't have to follow it. Okay.
Right. Right.
So as we fast forward from what happened with the Persian Gulf War, and we know that war, as I stated before, ended rather quickly, but that propaganda machine, it got started quick. And the irony about this, if you go back before this, was from 1980 to 1988, Iran and Iraq fought an 8-year war against each other. And I remember us being told that Saddam Hussein gassed his own people, the Kurds in the northern part of Iraq. So we were told that if he's willing to gas his own people, we know he's going to gas us. And to go back to 1990 to 1988 is to realize that during those times, we didn't want Iran to get influence in the Middle East. So what we did was, who our buddy was? It was Saddam Hussein.
Yep.
So we sent weapons to Iraq to fight against Iran. And if you know, again, with Iran having hostages and the Iranian Revolution taking over around 1979 at the end of President Jimmy Carter's tenure and the very beginning, the hostages were released actually before Ronald Reagan was inaugurated as president. So that goes back, just to give you some back history for those that don't know, about where a lot of this stuff started with Iran, okay? So we didn't want them to have any influence in the Middle East, so we armed Iraq. Now, you fast forward to 2000, and as we know, 9/11, 2001. We have the terrible tragedy with the World Trade Center. Also in Pennsylvania, in Shanksville, and the attack on the Pentagon um, by commercial jets, as we all know. So we know
Hijacked.
that, yeah, we all remember the tragedy of that day. And this is what I mentioned, Rodney and I, we talked about it before. President Bush got us all gassed up, and myself as well, gassed up. We're angry, we're mad, because you visually see how horrible
Yeah.
the events, that occurred on 9/11. So he
Right.
has American sympathy. He has American propaganda behind him too. Somebody got to pay for this. Somebody has to pay for this, right? So when you go forward and see, we're looking for who did this. We're trying to find Osama bin Laden. We're trying to make somebody pay for what they did. So what they tried to do was tie in bin Laden with Hussein as though they planned it together. Those who committed those crimes on those planes were Saudi nationals.
Right.
They had nothing to do with Iraq or Afghanistan. Those were Saudi
Right.
nationals that did that.
Right.
So so what you do is you get the tie-in to Iraq and Saddam Hussein with Al Qaeda. And now you got your enemy. You got your enemy now to the United States. You can sell to the American people who our enemies are, who did this, who's responsible. The second thing is now you have to sell it to the UN. You have to sell it to those you are allies in the Middle East, which again, Saudi Arabia was one of them. But you got to get access. You can't just go in there, right? You got to get access. You got to get them believing why you want to come in and do what you want to do. So we never got permission from the UN. This despite General Colin Powell going to the UN and explaining how Iraq had, quote, weapons of mass destruction, how
Right.
they were somehow behind the attacks on 9/11.
Right.
But as we all know, if you don't know, that was faulty intelligence. And
Correct.
Colin Powell did not stick around as Secretary of Defense under the George W. Bush administration. He didn't stick around because he knew he was given faulty intelligence, faulty information after the fact. Come to find out that that information was given to him by Dick Cheney. It wasn't by the intelligence community about what Iraq truly had. So you have the propaganda machine there of us going in and spending billions, actually trillions of dollars to go fight in Iraq and Afghanistan for something that those two countries had nothing to do with the attacks on 9/11. Fast forward again, okay? This is important, obviously, because President Obama comes in as president of the United States during a financial crisis that
Right.
we're dealing with, and he's got this to deal with abroad. So
Right.
he basically ends the two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're basically a drag on the economy. People, we're losing soldiers, and people wondering, why are we there? Why are we there? So I have to bring all of that into where we are today. Okay. Before President Obama's tenure ends, he gets a resolution, an agreement with Iran to basically denuclearize themselves. All right. He gets them to agree without firing a shot, without going in an invasion
Or
to
bombing.
or bombing, right? He gets them to agree to a resolution to basically destroy their nukes. All right. A written agreement. Now,
Yep.
keep in mind, this agreement was signed by um, the UK, France, Germany, China, Russia, the EU, and of course, Iran themselves. They agree to this, right? They agree to have their weapons inspected, and they are complying with this agreement. And this was so in 2019, the current moron in office decides to rip it up.
Yep.
Says it's a bad deal, even though they're complying with it. Says it's a bad deal. He rips it up. So from 2019 up until now, all right. Well, I'm not really right now, but going back. So in 2019, he rips up the deal. Now you fast forward to this clown getting elected a second time. Don't forget Tulsi Gabbard, who was the UNI director of national intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard goes and says in the State of the Union that Iran is nowhere close to having a nuclear weapon. They're not close. All right. And you fast forward 3 months later, this regime decides to go in and, quote, bomb Iran again and tells us that they have obliterated their abilities to have a nuclear weapon. That's what we've been going by. So we get up to current day now, and suddenly they're telling us that, oh, they were just a couple weeks away from building a weapon to send over to us. We don't know if that ballistic missile, if they were ever building one, had the capabilities of even reaching here. But this is what this administration wants to tell us, that somehow now they got weapons pointed at us. But people, let's use some common sense. You know who else has weapons pointed at us right now? China and
Yep.
Russia.
Yep.
Do you see us going over and picking a fight with them? No, you don't. And as I've mentioned before numerous times, this is all part of the plan to basically interrupt midterms, to say we're at war, suspend midterms so he can use it as an excuse to stay in office. He wanted to start this war. We have never, as long as we've been, quote unquote, protecting Israel and arming Israel, we've never done joint operations together. So here we are now. We're at the point now we're sending soldiers from the 81st Airborne over to fight in Iran, and we're doing this basically being led by the nose by Israel and Netanyahu. Those are facts. So when I hear this administration now constantly talking about, well, they were the biggest sponsors of terror, where do you think they got their money from? China and Russia have been arming Iran for decades.
Yep.
It's nothing
Right.
new. North Korea, they've been arming them for decades. And then you're doing trade deals with Iran for their oil. And now you're having to lift sanctions, again, sanctions that were part of what President Obama had already put in place. Now the sanctions, you're lifting them so that you can get oil to come through the Strait of Hormuz, which they're blocking. So you're basically paying them more now than they would have gotten by just not bombing them at all.
Right.
So it's when I see people buying into this propaganda, which is what really lit my fuse on this stuff, I see how they're constantly preaching and teaching about, oh, they're the biggest sponsors of terror. No joke, really. But again, who's sending them money? Who's arming them with weapons? We're not invading those other sponsors, co-sponsors, if you want to call them that. We're not invading them. So we're picking a fight with a country that we know we're going to defeat if it's one-on-one. We know that. But I see this propaganda machine being crunk up again to justify American lives being sent over to fight, to justify what's happening right now, to justify why we're having to ask for $200 billion more dollars that's just going to be added to the debt. By the way, I thought conservatives were so concerned about the debt. Weren't they always the ones talking about how, oh, our grandkids going to pay this
Fiscal
debt?
responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility. They don't care. They
Nope.
don't care. They fail at this every time, trying to tell you this stuff. But this is the propaganda machine. I know I've been talking for a minute, but this is the propaganda machine that I notice that we do every time we want to justify going in and bombing or starting a war against someone. It starts all the time where they fill your head up with so much fear. Fear about this. I told you, going back to my days, it was the Million Man Army. They got the Million Man Army. They got the underground tunnels. They got the duplicates. Oh, they'll fight to the death, for Saddam Hussein. It's something that just continues all the time, and people that aren't up to speed or aware don't realize this is what we do every time, and
Right.
people buy into it, and you get those people in the administration on TV to justify why the war is feasible. Why? Okay, you're going to pay more for gas, but guess what? It's to save American lives. We're going to save American lives in this war. We're going to have peace in that region once we destroy this regime. They said the same thing about Iraq. They said the same thing. How they were going to see us as liberators. You know what I mean? So it's like it's the same propaganda over and over again, where I just shake my head and say, we've heard this before. We've heard this before, and we never like the after effects of it. We're always puzzled during the process of, why are we over there? Why are our soldiers being killed? For what cause? What is the mission? What is the mission? So
It's changed a couple of
what's
times, I think.
changed? Yeah,
A couple
it
of times
constantly
it
changed.
changed the discussion on what it was.
Yeah, this is what they do. So you're going to see it more and more now. And I'm just telling people, like, don't fall for it. I know
Right.
people are, don't fall for it. We've heard this before. This goes back decades and decades, even before I even, of course, talked about the Persian Gulf War, but it goes back decades and decades of
Yeah.
American propaganda to justify war and to send over American soldiers to lose their lives. And we don't even know really what the mission is. Is the mission regime change? Doesn't mean anything. All they're going to do is you're going to create more sex, SECTS. You're going to have more terrorist factions that are created from this, and more anti-American sentiment from
Yeah.
this. You don't
Yeah.
create some type of coalition where people will welcome Americans into the Middle East. They don't want to be part of Western culture.
No.
Period. They don't. They want to be independent and live their own way.
Said a mouthful there, my brother.
Go
Yes,
ahead, Rodney, tackle it.
I agree with you about uh, this impacting the midterms, no doubt. Why we got into it, I think you're right. It was more a tie to a supporting country. And I think Marco Rubio said it best of all of them. I think he didn't check with anybody before he said it, but he said Israel was going to go on without us. And we couldn't let that happen because we would get blamed anyway. I don't know if the term propaganda means untruths or alternative facts. I don't know, but it seems to me that we're not getting the facts, as you say. You gentlemen know better than I would, but it seems to me that this is an illegal conflict, and that Congress was not signing off on this, and our allies were not told about it beforehand. So I think it ties very much into what I was going to talk about, Bobby, as
Absolutely.
related to
Yes.
propaganda, misleading with the truth about why we're doing things that we're doing.
Yeah, and I'll just add that propaganda is basically the first act of most wars anyway. It's a bunch of lies and a bunch of exaggerations, a bunch of wag the dog kind of thing. And so that's truly what's going on now. And people who have been there before, it's like you watch the news, you watch it from this end and you're like, wow, Americans are actually believing this stuff. Like they're actually believing what they see on the nightly news, and whether it's planes and look, I'm not saying, for instance, that refueler just went down. I'm not discrediting what they're saying about some fluke accident about the refueling plane, but it is, those things rarely ever happen, man. And that's all I can tell. That's all I know. It rarely ever happens. But
Right.
but anyway, there were 6 airmen. I think it was like 6 or something like that, just gone.
7, yeah.
7, yeah, just gone. But the other thing is that one thing that I looked at when Bobby was talking, and when Trump talked about, or the administration or the regime, whatever you want to call it, talked about 2 weeks away. I can't believe that America hasn't seen this pattern of Donald Trump saying 2 weeks away. Everything is 2 weeks away. No matter what it is, it's 2 weeks away. I'm surprised he haven't said that the west or the east wing of the White House, is it the east wing that he is that where? Yeah,
Yeah,
where the first
yeah.
lady,
Ballroom to be
yeah, the
built.
ballroom. I can't believe that he said that thing is not 2 weeks away. If he said, if somebody asks him right now, how far away is it? He'll say 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And you look at it, you're like, what? So that was just one other thing, that I just can't understand, that people haven't picked up on that pattern yet. And but also Bobby alluded to that, the only thing you're doing, like Bobby said, you've created a bunch of different sects, like he said, how you spell it,
CTS.
CTS,
Yes.
that's going to come out of this. You're also creating just an entire another generation, of young people who are just going to hate America. And
Yeah.
now we can say we don't care about who hate us and all that. Oh yeah, we need to care,
Yeah.
because it's no longer where these young people are hating the West, but the West are beginning to wash their hands of America. So it's going to be truly American hate versus a hate of the quote unquote West. So I just think those are just a few things to kind of look at with
Good
this.
point.
But Bobby, definitely, man, the propaganda and how easily, and the reason propaganda can be um, so easily done here in America and be so successful is because we are so willing to believe and want to believe in American exceptionalism and America first and all that stuff. We want to believe it so much that, they just wag the dog, every single time. They just feed us these red herrings every single time. And they just take it, just take it in. So, but anyway, but Bobby, yeah, before we move on to Rodney, man, close out your topic, brother.
Well, I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not defending the Iranian regime.
No.
And I want to make it clear too, it is a terrible regime.
Yeah.
Same for Iraq, same for Libya. I'm not saying that the leaders of these particular countries are good people or even that the people love them. Of course, you got some people here that love the fool we got in office right now. So
Yeah.
it's not
70
anything
something
new,
million.
but I just want to make sure that is clear that we are definitely pulling for the best for any of our soldiers that have to fight in this illegal war. And I'm gonna say it as a war because that's what it is. But
Right.
and we only want all of us that offer these type of critiques is we all want better in this country. We all want this country to actually live up
Absolutely.
to what it claims to be by the Constitution. Black people have always fought and defended for this Constitution, even when it didn't defend us.
Still
So
doesn't.
it still doesn't. So that's just
Exactly.
a fact. But I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said and put accountability where it belongs. That's just bottom line.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that's my 2 cents on that.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate
And,
that.
and, and we, and we, melanated folks, black folks, us, we more than anybody wanted to succeed because we know that when this country get the flu, we get COVID. So
That's right.
we know that we're going to be the ones who catch it. So
That's
we
right.
want it to succeed. But one thing that we don't have, and that is, we don't hesitate about telling the truth about the country and all of that. So, but anyway, great topic, Bobby, Rodney.
Yes,
Look,
sir.
you're up next, brother. The
Thank
SAVE
you,
Act.
man.
Take it away, Rodney.
Well, all things are pointing to November 2026.
You better believe it.
Bobby hinted on it just a little while ago. And I did hear very clearly one of the president's biggest allies said that having ICE at the airports is good training to prepare for the November elections. So everything's pointing to that, including the SAVE Act. The Save America Act won't fix a problem that doesn't exist. What's the problem? Oh, they keep saying that there are non-citizens voting in the elections, swaying elections. Well, that's because the truth of the matter is non-citizens cannot vote legally. It's illegal for them to do so, okay? And it's extremely rare. Now, our friends over at the Heritage Foundation, the conservative think tank, conducted a research of voting since 2000, and they found only 65 convictions of non-residents, non-citizens voting. That's out of a 1.4 billion votes cast. I don't even want to try to figure out the percentage. It's just off the chart.
A
Okay?
fraction of 1%.
So they're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist, bottom line. But the impact is going to be a negative effect on millions of voters. A lot of them, to tell you the truth, are supporters of the current regime in Washington. According to Representative Jim Clyburn, he says that the SAVE Act will reduce the number of blacks serving in Congress. Our Senator, Raphael Warnock, said they're not even trying to hide what the SAVE Act is really all about. It's about making sure only the right people vote quote, RIGHT, people vote. It's to guarantee the midterms.
It is about stopping voters from voting. It is that simple, but it will hurt Black people, it will hurt Latinos, and it will hurt women of all races and people in rural areas, people with disabilities who come in all races and in all communities, people who are elderly, and people who are students. Who did I leave out? Not many.
And then Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, cannot name a single fraud case that the SAVE Act would stop, is because the SAVE Act is not a bill to stop voter fraud. It's a bill to suppress the vote. Bottom line. That's the deal, gentlemen. I mean, it's got to be important to this administration because the president would not sign off on a bipartisan resolution to the TSA workers not getting paid, putting them back on the payroll, and open up the rest of the DHS. He said that until they pass the SAVE Act, he's not signing any bills. So this has really got to be important. Well, if we just go back a little bit, Bobby and Rodney, we don't have to go back that far for them trying to blackmail, or should I say vote mail, Minnesota and other cities that was being raided by ICE if they turned over their voter rolls. Everything is a quid pro quo. It's a deal. Let's make a deal. The art of the steal. That's what this is. So they've been making this effort. Oh, redistricting. Another part of the pre-SAVE Act move that backfired. I think there's been 15 special elections in Republican district strongholds that they've lost this past year and this year. So all of the signs in the polls indicate that this is their last effort to steal the election. So we're really trying to stop the steal, if you will. But for those who not know in the back, the SAVE Act is really, it's called, in my mind, it's called Save the GOP Majority in Congress Act. That's what it is. The SAVE Act will require all Americans to prove their citizenship. So it's a citizenship bill, not a voter ID bill, because the current laws in most states are that you have to provide an ID to vote. The military, college ID, student ID, or driver's license. And then what happens is when you do the registration, voter registration, it's the government workers and election officials who verify that you're a citizen through the system. So it's not on the citizens to prove that they're American citizens. That's the job of the people we pay our taxes to administer the elections in this country at the local level. So this is a faux issue, if you will. A quick summary. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility SAVE Act will require all American citizens registering to vote or updating their registration form, women get married and they change their last name, to present documentary proof of citizenship in person. You have to provide a passport or birth certificate in person. Government-issued driver's licenses, as I said, real IDs that they required us to get in order to get on an airplane, they won't meet the bill's requirement. The legislation would invert the responsibility to verify a person's eligibility and citizenship status from election officials, as I said earlier, and the government onto every single American citizen. They're going to want us, to re-register with our passports or our birth certificates. So the voter card that you have now would be invalid automatically. The SAVE Act would change the way all citizens register to vote upon enactment. It would upend online voter registration, make it impossible to mail in a registration application, and eliminate voter registration drives. I guess Stacey Abrams scared the heck out of them, huh?
Guess so.
Some of the stats, if you don't believe me, 146 million, about 146 American citizens do not possess a valid passport. That's almost 50% of the population. In context, 153 million Americans voted in the 2024 presidential general election. 143 million. So that's a scary thought. High rates of passport ownership are overwhelmingly concentrated in blue states, while low rates are concentrated in red states. There we go. There we go. Voter suppression. Again, blue states. Picking your representatives will not be by you, the voter. In 7 states, less than 1/3 of citizens have a valid passport. West Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Only 4 states do more than 2/3 of citizens have a valid passport. New York, Massachusetts, California, and New Jersey, blue states. And that tells you the whole story right there, gentlemen. If you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring a close on this. Oh, by the way, this is from the AmericanProgress.org. It's an online news site. This is from February 3rd, 2026, and the authors are Greta Bedovokic and Sydney Bryant. Election integrity. Election officials are required to verify a person's eligibility to vote using state and federal data, including citizenship data from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, data from the Social Security Administration, death data, and U.S. Postal Service change of address data. Under federal law, anyone registered to vote must also provide either the driver license number or at least 4 digits of the Social Security number to provide election officials with the necessary information to verify their identity and voting eligibility. The system works. There's nothing wrong with the system. What's wrong is we have an authoritarian regime trying to stay in power, and they know that they haven't produced policies that the American people support as their leaders. That's the truth, gentlemen. So this is not Save America Act. This is not going to save America. This is going to save the GOP's majority in Congress. That's what this is. So we've encouraged folks, Bobby and Rodney, to call your U.S. senators, call your Congress people, no matter where you are in the state, and encourage them to vote no on this. It's still under debate. I'm hopeful that the resolution of the TSA funding will be resolved without this bill being passed. The indications I've heard from the majority leader in the U.S. Senate, Thune, there are not the votes to pass it. So, you know what they do? Sleight of hand. They're gonna add an amendment to the bill to require voter ID. Well, wait a minute. There's only a half a dozen states in this country that when you get your driver's license, part of the driver license is an annotation confirming that you're a citizen or not, because non-residents can get a driver's license. So there's only a half a dozen states that do that. So the driver's license is not the problem. The problem is they're requiring you to get a passport or produce your birth certificate and show up in person to re-register once this bill goes into effect. So that's where we are, gentlemen. We're at the precipice. We're going to find out whether this democracy is going to hold based upon this bill dying or not. That's where we are, gentlemen.
I
Bobby,
certainly hope this
Bobby, go
bill
ahead.
never passes. I'm sorry. I
No.
hope this
Yep.
bill never passes.
Yes, sir.
You know, this is one more step to try to nationalize our elections. It's one more step. And this goes back to, again, if they're trying to pull voter rolls data like they did in Fulton County.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another example of propaganda, false propaganda in this
Correct.
case. So you're using this idea of, oh, there's so many illegal people that are voting, which,
Right.
again, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of 1%, right? That's who have done it. And by the way, I've noticed that a lot of these people that are illegally voting, they're Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They're not.
Those that
They're
they've
not
caught
even.
in recent years, yes.
That recently it's been
Voter
Republicans.
fraud, yes.
That's right.
Including Elon Musk.
Correct. Yeah, you see what he tried in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
And
About three.
even those are fractions of fractions of fractions of
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
0.0002% maybe.
That's
Even of
right.
the Republicans who does it.
Correct.
Absolutely. And see, one of the things that this is the false propaganda. Oh, well, what's wrong with having voter ID? Nothing. We've been providing voter ID, but
We
when you're
have it.
adding but when you're adding these extra layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the ones that are the because we know the Republicans obviously have the majority. I hope they're listening to their constituents who say, "Hey, man, I don't have a passport. You know,
I can't find my birth certificate.
I can't find my birth certificate, right?" And
Yep.
when they bring that up, because I'm sure some of them are saying, "Hey, I won't be able to vote. If you
Right.
pass this bill, I won't be able to vote." And one of the things that gets left out on providing this additional ID stuff that they want, right, is take for example, I know family members who were not born in a hospital.
Particularly in the
Obviously,
South, Jim Crow.
correct. Right. Obviously, why? Because you didn't want black people born in your hospitals.
That's right.
So a lot of them were born by midwife. They were born
That's
at
correct.
home.
That's
So they
right.
don't have a official birth certificate
Nope.
like those who have been born in a hospital. They
Thank you.
don't have it. Some of them rely on their military background
Correct.
to be
Correct.
able to vote, to show that
Not
they
no
are
more. If
indeed a
this bill
citizen.
passes, not no more.
That's see what I'm saying? So it's like, so when I hear this ignorance on television, what's wrong with having ID? Nobody ever said they had a problem with providing ID.
Nope.
But
Nope.
notice something too. How come we weren't talking about this in 2004, 2000, 2008, 2012? We
Right.
weren't talking about none of this stuff, right?
No, sir. No,
All
sir.
of a sudden in 2016, there's a problem. If I don't win, it's because they cheated, right?
Right.
2020 rolls around, you lose, and you lose in states where there are Republicans in charge of the voting, right?
Correct.
You lose there, right? Like here, especially here in Georgia, you
And
lose there,
asking to
and
find me the votes.
correct. And you find me the votes, right? Somehow there's this massive voter fraud. Somehow we got trucks dumping voting ballots in a river, in a creek somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just any
Mm-hmm.
kind of conspiracy theory you want to come up with. Now, and again, this goes back to now, and we've talked about this before too. I bet you in 2024 something was done, and I honestly hope one day it comes out that 2024 was an invalid election. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
so the world won't say, "How did y'all get this fool back in here a second time?" I
Mm-hmm.
hope that Elon Musk either tells, or there's a real investigation, because it's not going to happen in this administration,
No.
into what happened in 2024. I'm not
Right.
one that lives on conspiracy theories, but but in this case, I want to know what Musk knows. He's given plenty of hints as to, you did something. You knew about the results 2 hours before everybody else did. Oh, the Republicans wouldn't be a majority if it wasn't for him. You said a lot of stuff that they're not going to investigate. And so that's why I say I hope one day we find out there was some type of um, shenanigans. Let's just say in
Right.
2024, to prove that you didn't win the election. You didn't win. I know there are areas where it's mathematically impossible. That some of the voting totals that came out, that showed, that somehow Kamala Harris got 0 votes in a majority blue area. Okay. That's mathematically impossible.
Impossible.
I want to know what happened, right? But we're
Yeah.
not going to see it under this administration. It may come out years down the road, Lord willing, we're here to see it. But I just hope that there is an investigation one day and it turns up, because we know the rest of the world, going back to what we were talking about just now about Iran, is looking at us like, how did y'all get this fool back in office a second time? We're not
Amen.
coming to help you in Iran. We're not helping you with the Strait of Hormuz. We're not helping you because we don't want to be a part of this. We're gonna do
Right.
our own trade deals.
Right.
When this clown is gone, we'll talk to y'all then. But we're not doing it while he's there.
Or
So
isolated.
yeah, I just want to throw that in about this whole
Good
thing about the
point.
SAVE Act, and
Good
tie it
point.
all in together to, again,
Yes.
interrupting midterms and trying to keep this regime in office, because he knows he's cooked. If he loses, and if the Democrats take over the majority in Congress, he's going to get impeached. And every person that's involved in this administration that's gone along with this foolishness is going to be indicted. They know that. So the only way suddenly now you got to rush, you got to pass the SAVE Act. You got
Yep.
to do this. You got to do all of this stuff now before the elections even occur.
Right.
That's why you're doing it, because you're cooked. You're
Yeah.
cooked. If you lose these midterms, you're done.
And the
Yeah.
hypocrisy. Oh, I'm sorry, Rodney. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rod. Then I'll
I just
say my
I just want to
piece.
close out on the hypocrisy. The bill opposes mail-in voting,
Yeah.
and how did the president just vote in a special election in Florida? Absentee
mail.
ballot by
Mhm.
mail.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yet
Mhm.
you're putting a bill together that would keep you from doing that in the future, and everybody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. I'm missing something, gentlemen.
Well, they've wanted to show in his first term, and especially in this term, that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. In other words, we do whatever we want to do, but you cannot do anything. What I'm thinking is that they just want to go back. If you look at it, they kind of want to, like, they want to go back to what the original, the founders, well, I call them I don't call them the forefathers. I kind of call them the four felons, of this country, not the forefathers. They are the four felons. But anyway, originally, you didn't even have to be a citizen of this country to vote.
How could
Right?
you?
How
could you?
Right. In the original, who was a citizen? I mean, what was citizenship? But what you had to be is a property owner. Keep in mind now, for the listeners out there, we
Mhm.
were considered property.
Mhm.
Okay.
Chattel.
So you had to be a property owner. Okay. And you had to be a man. You had to be a male property owner. And but they didn't say anything about citizenship. But if memory serve if it serves me correctly, Trump knows that he there's a high probability that he may go to jail. Okay. He know that he's going to get impeached. He's so afraid of this time of actually getting removed by the Senate. He's hoping that the Senate doesn't happen, but they are so afraid when you look at all of these elections, these in-between elections that has been happening, special elections, they have really, really been losing like big time. And so I just think that that everything just goes back to that. And they just want to take it back, man. I don't even know if they even really want the elections to be nationalized more than they want them just to be where if you are not a white Christian cisgender man, they just don't want you to vote. It's really just that simple. And if they can get that done at the state level, they would be happy to have it there if the states would do it. They just want as few people as possible to vote. And when we look at the Heritage Foundation, okay, they have studied. Okay, this is the same people, the Heritage Foundation, who are the primary originators, authors, or whatever of Project 2025. That think tank. Look, they study black people more than all the HBCUs combined. It's just what they do. They know how many of us don't have, birth certificates that were born by midwives, and who has passports, and they know every single thing about us because that's what they do. They primarily study African Americans, black people, us, and everybody else. They just use propaganda, or they just use proximity to whiteness to say, well, we're going to consider you white right now. They know with us that can't happen. Right. So it's not a thing. And so it's just like we study them. We know if we could just take them out of the electorate, if we could just reduce them by just 10% out of the electorate, Democrats would never, ever, ever win another election. If we could just wipe out 10% of the black electorate, African American electorate in America.
Yeah, and progressive independents have lost a lot of support amongst independents. So here's my closing thought on this, gentlemen. White supremacy must die. Not the person, but the lie.
Agreed.
White supremacy must die.
Agreed. And I'm gonna say one thing.
Bobby, you close it out, brother. Your topic.
I promise this will be quick. The
No, no,
worst
no. Go
part
ahead.
of
You good?
the worst
You got
part
time.
of some of this stuff right now too that they're trying to do is the Supreme Court appears to be ready, right from what I just seen yesterday. The Supreme Court appears ready to reduce the amount of mail-in ballots. See, that's the worst part about this stuff. It's one thing when something's coming from the White House and their administration, but when you don't have a Supreme Court with any backbone to stop this stuff, it makes it even worse.
That's
If they're
correct.
capitulating to what's going on and
That's correct.
not standing up for the Constitution, it makes it even worse.
And you can't appeal beyond that.
Nope, nope. And you
Absolutely.
have to ask yourself, which we already know the answer to. The question is why? Why would you want less people voting instead of more? Why? There's only one reason. You want to cheat to win. That's it.
Yep. And
Conservatives say the same thing when
mhm,
they use it in reverse. They say, well, the reason why Democrats want to allow quote unquote illegals to come here, which by the way, they've never said that they want
None.
illegals to be able to
None.
vote.
Right.
But that's again, it's the propaganda that they use. Oh, this is why they want open borders and things
No,
like that.
Democrats
So
want immigration reform. They've been
correct,
asking for it forever.
correct. And we had a bipartisan bill, but we won't go into that.
Yes, sir.
yeah. And then you think about Bobby too, that look how well it worked for the fewer people vote. Look at how well that worked before, 18 before the 1860s,
Mm-hmm.
before the 1850s. It worked pretty well
Mm-hmm.
for them. So they just want to go
Mm-hmm.
back to that. So
Hmm.
so when they say take America back, man, they mean back, back, back,
Way
back,
back.
back, way
Way
back.
back.
So
Yep.
uh
Way
and,
back.
and guess what? And all the skids have been pretty greased in order to take it back too.
Yes,
So
sir.
we just have to stay open and we just have to stay involved. And they believe in voter suppression, but with us sometimes we believe in voter depression. And we just have
Yes.
to stop that as a people.
Yes.
We really have to stop that. So but anyway, so mine is last. So on kind of a lighter note, but I consider this serious too.
Right.
I'm going to talk about the Afroman lawsuit. And I'm going to start out because, like I said, I know you guys follow, and we don't follow typically this kind of stuff, or we don't talk about it. We may look at it or whatever in the news and on social media, but I said, well, I'm going to read a little bit of this stuff. Here I am. I'm going to do some case background. It's kind of it's looking kind of weird or whatever, but I'm gonna do the best I can to read it. And but this is some case background on this Afro Man's lawsuit. The legal battle began after the Adams County Sheriff's Office raided Afro Man's home in August 2022 on suspected drug trafficking and kidnapping allegations. I believe this is Adams County in Ohio. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Ohio, I believe. Yeah. And so the raid, no drugs, kidnapping victims, or illegal items were found, and no charges were ever filed. The retaliation, Afroman used his home security footage of the raid to create viral music videos and social media content, most notably for the songs Lemon Pound Cake and Will You Will You Help Me Repair My Door?
Right.
Now, the lawsuit, 7 deputies sued the rapper in March 2023, seeking nearly $4 million in damages. They claim he used their likeness without permission and caused them emotional distress, embarrassment, and death threats. The verdict, after a 3-day trial in West Union, Ohio, the jury rejected the officers' claims. Free speech defense. Afro Man's legal team argued that as public figures, the officers were subject to criticism and that the rapper had a First Amendment right to use the footage to mock the raid. And satire versus fact. The defense successfully argued that his over the top lyrics, including mocking an officer for eyeing a lemon pound cake, could not reasonably be taken as literal statements of fact. And last, the ACLU support. The American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, filed an an amicus brief in support of Afroman, characterizing the deputy's lawsuit as a SLAP. That's SLAPP, strategic lawsuit against public participation intended to silence criticism. So that's kind of the background of this. And guys, before I, ask your opinion on it, I want to share a short video, actually two short videos. One is him in the testifying in court, and the other one is after the verdict was rendered. And so let me cue this video.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? As this, you shall answer unto God.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may have a seat.
The sheriff's never supposed to raid my house in the first place. The whole raid was a mistake. All of this is their fault. If they hadn't wrongly raided my house, there would be no lawsuit. I would not know their names. They wouldn't be on my body. They wouldn't be on my home surveillance system. And there would be no songs, nothing. My money would still be intact, nothing. So all of this is their fault.
You saw all that.
Yes.
You knew she was upset.
Just like she knew I was upset when she was standing in front of my kids with an AR-15 with her hand around the trigger ready to shoot me. Just like she knew I was upset when she cut my cameras. But I'm not a person, she is. So I'm sorry for being a victim. Let's talk about the predators. Tearing down my door, not paying for it, not being apologetic, me being a sport, doing something peaceful to raise the money to pay for their damages, me having the right of the freedom of speech as an American to talk to my family, friends, and fans about what the sheriffs did to my home. Yes, I had the right to my freedom of speech.
So now, gentlemen, before actually, I have one more short video because I want to play this. So I want you guys to see his reaction. No. This is going to be the reaction after. Yeah. This is going to be the reaction. I would love to play the song, but it's kind of long. But this is just another short video of the reaction after the verdict. So I wanted to show that so that way because like I said, I don't know how well you guys were up on this, so I want to make sure that you are totally up. Okay, let's see here.
A jury has sided with the rapper Afroman in the civil lawsuit filed against him by Adams County deputies. WCPO 9 News reporter Jay Shakur is live outside the courthouse tonight. This verdict, Jay, was read right about 30 minutes ago, and you spoke to Afroman as he was leaving. What's his reaction?
That's right. Afroman had a very emotional reaction. The jury, as you mentioned, siding with the rapper Afroman, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, in this case. Here's video from inside the courtroom as this case went on. During closing arguments, the attorney representing the deputies in this case claimed Afroman intentionally lied about and defamed the deputies in his songs, but Afroman's attorneys maintained throughout this trial it is his right to say what he wants to say. This goes back to 2022 when Afroman's home was raided following search warrants related to possession and trafficking in drugs and kidnapping. Though he was never charged, the attorneys for the deputies suing say Afroman used security video from the raid on his home and put it in a music video using deputies' likeness without permission. Again, this jury in Adams County finding he did not defame those deputies. Here's Afroman speaking directly after that verdict.
I didn't win. America won. America still has freedom of speech. It's still for the people, by the people.
Afroman becoming emotional there as he says this fight was bigger than him. It was about free speech and what he describes as corruption in this sheriff's department. I spoke to one supporter who came all the way from Dallas. I have more on that and more reaction from the rapper tonight at 11. In Adams County, Jay Shakur, WCPO 9 News.
So now, gentlemen, before I get you to opine on this, I just wanted to say that one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to talk about this is just to highlight the fragility of these law enforcement officers. Bobby, you and I are Army veterans, and it almost sickens us to see just how fragile these law enforcement officers are, because they love to do the whole paramilitary thing, right? They love to look like they're military. They love to appear to be, but then as soon as you pop them in the mouth, by simply just calling them a name, by you were the one staring at that man's mother's lemon pound cake, and then when he talk about you from doing that, you want to sue the man for $4 million. You want some of his money, you want some of what he's getting out of this. And what do you thought? You thought it was just going to stay there? You thought by you not coming out wanting to go after him and his money and what he's earning, that some kind of way you wasn't going to get exposed with your fragility. The only thing about it is they have no idea how fragile they are. And I think that this is why the GOP, for instance, this is why those guys love, or they appear to love, or they try to publicly look like they love law enforcement. Because guess what? They are just as fragile. Those GOP guys are fragile, man. And they are sitting there crying. But I will say this, I am a little afraid for that brother, in a way, because that's a small town, and a lot of people think because Ohio is kind of up north and is in the Ohio is about as racist as Mississippi. Yeah, it's up south, and so that brother needs to be very, very careful, because those guys look like they are really, really upset. You embarrassed. It hurt your fragility, and you didn't get no money. So, but anyway, guys, I just wanted to, because you and Bobby talked about Rodney some heavy stuff tonight, and even though this is lighter than what you guys talked about, but I definitely think it shines a light on so many different things that are wrong in America with these fragile men, or so-called men. I really think it shines a light. But anyway, guys, jump in there before we conclude this evening.
For one thing, people need to keep in mind that the police, he mentioned it, but wasn't a lot talked about it, but they destroyed his walls, his doors. They took his cash too. He had cash inside there that they took. So he has every right to be upset. And by the way, they didn't give him his money back either. So no, they didn't give his cash back. He only got a portion of it back.
Oh, wow.
So they did a lot of things wrong, in this quote unquote raid, because it's just so much, from, as he mentioned, to having an assault rifle, pointed at your mother. It's just a lot, and we keep hearing these stories over and over again over the past few years more, but we know that they've been existing long before then. But just being caught on camera now is really what's saving a lot of these things from turning tragic, and when they have turned tragic, are resulting in convictions for the most part. Not in every one, but they're resulting in convictions. So I just want to add that, as part of the story with Afroman.
Appreciate it.
Yes. I saw a little bit of the news on that. I hadn't heard about prior to that. But the bottom line is this, gentlemen. We are American citizens, whether they like it or not. We have the same rights under the Constitution. We are no longer 3/5 of a human, despite what this administration is trying to put back on us. We are not. We are American citizens. And if you want to know the truth, our ancestors were here building this country before it was a country.
Yep.
It was colonies. And before the colonies, we were here producing. We provided the skills. Being a slave didn't give us a skill for later on to exploit it in the free enterprise system. We did every damn thing. So the bottom line is this, gentlemen. I think Afroman proved the point that the judicial system can work if citizens do their part. Because it was a jury that made that decision. It wasn't one person. It wasn't a judge. It was his peers that made that decision. And he had the nerve, the guts, and the bravery to take it the way that he did, and to use his notoriety to put a little spin on it, to have a little fun with it. So I think that's a great example of why we should definitely fight to keep this country a democracy, or as much of a democracy as we possibly can, and that the freedoms that were promised to us through the Emancipation Proclamation actually bear out.
Yeah, and I think that it was a kind of a stamp on top of everything for him to be in that courtroom, with that
Suit.
with that suit on, with that American
That
flag
was
suit
awesome.
on.
That was what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
And
Yeah.
it's just it allowed for you to say, well, you can't not say that I'm patriotic, but you also has to say that what this man is doing is over the top. So it kind of did both of those things. It showed his patriotism, and it showed that this man is no more than a modern day Weird Al Yankovic or somebody who parodied everybody, and nobody ever talked about taking him to court, and he well, I don't know, maybe they did, but I if they did, it wasn't
in the news.
It wasn't in the news. And but the thing of it is that I just want for everything that we talked about tonight, whether it is the SAVE Act, whether it is propaganda, or even whether it is Afroman, is that all of those things, all three of them, are what's to come in America. The SAVE Act, the propaganda that Bobby talked about, every bit of this, and what they're doing. They want to normalize doing what they did to Afroman. They want to normalize that. They told him, oh, we don't have to pay for that. We don't have to pay for your stuff. Right. They literally said that out of their mouths. Yep. And so then you're going to get mad because the man make a song asking people, to help him repair his, help him repair his walls, help him repair the door you kicked down, and you get mad at that. So it's like, no, not only are we going to damage your property and damage you, because they still see, many of them still see us as property. Not only are we going to damage your property and damage you, but we're also going to go after you if you ask for anybody to repair you. The key word is repair, reparations.
Yes,
Do I need to say more? So, it's all, everything that we talked about tonight, it is all just a peer in the future of what certain kind of fragile men want for this country to be back to the future. But anyway, that's my closeout. But guys, look, before I close it completely out, Bobby, anything to add about anything we talked about? And then Rodney will go to you, and then I'll close out the show, bro.
Yes, sir.
Well, all we have to do is every day is some type of stress going on. The topics write themselves pretty much every time we come up and have one of these shows. So just everyone, please check your voter status every day, because the tricks that they're trying right now, they're trying to do this early ahead of time because they know which way the wind is blowing, and it's not blowing in their favor. So just be wary of the propaganda. Like I said, listen closely to how they amplify and use hyperbole on everything to somehow say, because he's so desperate to look like a hero and everything. They were just about to send some missiles our way. But you just said less than a year ago you had obliterated them. You were the one that ripped up the agreement. So then now you want to talk about President Obama. There's never any self-critique, never any, self-analysis on this stuff. So it just gets tiresome to see it all the time. But please stay prayed up. Don't let all of this stuff drive you crazy, although it's a constant interference in our everyday lives. We see it now at the airports, with what's going on. So think about this. They're much as we may not want to talk about them and just get your stress up. We've had government shutdown where you're affecting people's paychecks.
Yes.
We've had, now you got airport security being compromised. And now and this war is starting to affect energy, the gas pump, which so many people said that they were so upset. They were, oh yeah, these gas prices are so high. President of the United States doesn't control gas prices, but if he starts a war, oh yeah, now you're messing with it. But directly no, but indirectly yes.
Yep.
So
doesn't control it, but he can affect it.
Can't control it, but he can definitely affect it, and as well as the stock markets, as we know. So
exactly,
just be wary.
Rodney?
Wow, my brothers, it's great to be with you this evening.
Always.
We're ending March, heading into April. This is the time we need to be conscientious, as Bobby said, of your right to vote, to make sure they haven't taken you off the rolls. If you've moved, re-register to your new address. All politics is local, brothers, as we talk about. This is election year. You have county, state, and federal elections going on in a couple of days. Early voting starts. Please make sure you don't miss the deadline to register to vote. Do your homework. Do your homework, because these seats affect you more than any other elected office in the jurisdictions that we're in. And your voice is important. Now, if you don't participate in the No Kings 3-day, there's other things that you can do to voice your support for a democracy. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to your family. Make sure they're registered to vote, because they're trying everything they can to take it away from you and keep you from voting. As states are responsible under the Constitution for elections, not the federal government for running elections. And this is a clear interference in that process with the SAVE Act and the propaganda that's being taken out of context to make you think that this is going to somehow improve voter identification, and it is not. So be strong, stay out there in them streets and them suites, and as my man Rodney B says, we're going to be flipping some tables.
Yes, sir. And look, Rodney, I'm so glad you ended on a call to action, because I rarely talk about it on this platform, but I'm going to talk about it because, you know, you ask people to do something, and a call to action. And I just think one of the easiest apps that's been out there that has created a space for us to just, even if you don't know what's going on, you go on this app and it will tell you what's going on. And it is the 5 Calls app. I've had it since it started. Honestly, I think the first week that it launched, I've had it since then. But the 5 Calls app makes it so easy for you to engage. You know, it'll tell you who your elected officials are. It even does the letters and everything for you, or it was not the letters, but the voicemails and the messages that, you know, it tells you to, you know, like if you don't like this the SAVE Act or whatever, it tells you, you get on that 5 Calls app and you find the issue that you want, which is a SAVE Act. It will literally tell you, it give you a script to, you know, to your senators, to your 2 senators, to your congressperson that serves in the U.S. Congress. And so look, use that. And Rodney, like I said, I'm so glad that you did a call to action. But and like I said, we don't promote a whole lot of stuff on here like that, because, you know, then the ads and stuff and everything just starts happening. But I have to promote the 5 Calls app, and so and maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more, you know, as we, especially in this 2026 most important election cycle, election season of just about any of our lifetimes. No matter how much you say that I'm tired of people saying that, it is for real. It is really for real this time. And so, but anyway, gentlemen, great conversation, great episode. Always look, these are the ones, I love our guests, don't get me wrong, but the last week of the month is the one that I look forward to the most, because, hey, we usually, you know, we flip tables. We flip tables on this one. So, so anyway, I appreciate. We try to be nice when we have guests on, because we don't want for them to be associated with some of our foolishness on here. But it's like, well, you was on that show, you was on that episode when they were being foolish. So we try to hold it down when they're on here. But boy, hey, it's just us on these. So anyway, gentlemen, as always, appreciate it. And and look, we will see you well in April. We got a full slate going on. There's 5 weeks, and I think there's 5 shows, and so you know, we might make it look easy, but this is a lot of hard work. So, but anyway, gentlemen, as always, I appreciate you guys. And with that, catch the Black Man's Roundtable podcast the 3rd Thursday of the month. Also catch the Black Man's Roundtable Roundup with Rodney and Rodney the 2nd Thursday of the month. And the Black Man's Roundtable Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby the 1st Thursday of the month. All episodes drop at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
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 Hey, family, if you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
Read something educational for you. Woke up to the sound of the struggle, echoes loud in the street. Generations of pain in the rhythm, blood and tears in the beat. From the corners to the courtrooms, we decipher the code. Every word that we speak is a chapter, every step is a road. They try to silence the story, rewrite the pages in gold. But the truth don't need no filter, the truth don't need no hope.
This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. From the roots to the branches, we rise through the pain. Black Man's Round Table, we're breaking the chain.
Microphone in my hand like a weapon, wisdom passed down through the ages. Every topic we tackle, every fight on these stages. They say we're too loud when we whisper, too proud when we kneel. But the power in our voices is the power that's real.
This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. From the roots to the branches, we rise to the pain. Black Man's Round Table, we're breaking the chain. This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. From the roots to the branches, we rise through the pain. Black Man's Round Table, we're breaking the chains.
Unapologetically black. We'll see you in them suites and them streets where we're flipping tables like Jesus.
We're breaking the chains.